So the park at night, that's actually before this is a photograph before the dimmers were on and before some of the adjustments occur, but you know, I think it's kind of amazing to come over the bridge and look down on that. Next. Our first major snowstorm. That'll be great to be out there. Snow, what do you call those things? Snowshoeing, thank you. It's cross-country skiing, which the park is certainly able to. This is not in the immediate plans for the park, but in the maybe someday category that we are proposing. We used to live in the West Village, and you go out those long piers in the West Village, and they're wonderful, but you got to kind of turn around and come back. Well, our piers are different. They're huge. They're 5 acres. They're the size of Bryant Park. But we want you to get out to the end of one and to be able to walk to the end of the other. That hasn't been permitted yet, and we don't have the funding for it either, but I think that for frequent users of the park, the more complex the ways to get out to the end of the parks, it allows the regular park users different ways to thread and create walks, and it just greatly diversifies the kind of ways that people can make use of being in the park. So Pier 1, that's what it used to look like. And there we are today under construction. Next. And that's the edge that we were looking at a minute ago. You can see where the subway is. Next. As I said a little bit, there's been a tremendous amount of stormwater management, both in terms, this is important for the quality of water in the East River, but also so that we are not drawing upon the water resources of the larger New York City reservoir system nearly as extensively as might have been the case even 10 years ago. Next. So this is where those underground storage tanks were put in. That was going on last summer. Next. And then, of course, one of the things that is also not yet immediate on the horizon, but is extremely exciting, is a connection from Squibb Park in what we're calling the Squibb Bridge, which will take you right into Pier 1. And now that I understand that the PS 8, correct, is just 1 block, 2 blocks in from Columbia Heights, children would be able to leave that school. Takes me about a 4-minute walk, so depending on the child, but faster or slower on their age, but literally in about 9 minutes from the school, they can be on Pier 1 when that bridge is constructed. So that will be exciting. And the Parks Department is doing a renovation. I'm sure many of you have seen of the Squibb Park now. Next. So this is, you can see, everybody I think knows where we are, but just to be sure, this is a ramp down, and then the bridge comes over, and there's a long incline, so it's fully accessible. Next. Further up in the queue, in terms of when it will be built, is the Pier 2 recreation pier. Discussions about that funding are going on now, but depending on the outcome of that, this will be one of the more imminent pieces in the next couple of years to be built. And this has got a ton of, this will have a roof on it, and we'll have basketball courts and handball courts and swings and all sorts of things out there. My grandkids live on the Upper East Side, so I'm a regular trekker up the East Side, but just people in New York will use recreational facilities if it's a reasonable meaning that it's not a blizzard. They will be outside using fields in 12 months of the year. And this is, of course, important to us because we want the park to be active, and we want there to be activity in the middle. You know, there's not, it's a kind of, it's an edge that's Furman Street and the BQE, and so having activities that draw people to the middle will be extremely important. And people will go that extra distance for the playing fields and the courts. Next. One of the things that we did, frankly, to save money was to put the things that didn't weigh a lot out piers and to put the heavier things where we were on ground. This was one of the changes that came about when we reworked the master plan in the beginning of the 2000s, so that, for example, the landforms and fountains and architecture and things like that were mostly on off of the piers. This is a more frugal kind of weight, structural capacity approach to building. And, you know, it's expensive to maintain and to repair all of these piles, and it would be even more expensive if really heavy things were out there. So this was a strategy for saving money. Next. This is looking at this is the tidal cove, and this is a way for creating a kayak launch. This is built and finished, by the way, and you'll be seeing it, and some people will be using it, I'm sure. But this is a way for bringing the kayaks down, and this is about medium. High tide is actually up there, and very low tide, like that low tide that we had at New Year's, a 2-moon thing or whatever that is. But the water was actually all the way down to there, and it's in the areas where the marine walls were disintegrating. Rather than spending huge amounts of money rebuilding marine walls, which only would deteriorate again, we took these areas and relaxed them, and we used much more conventional modes of civil engineering to armor those with stone. That was, in terms of cost, a better way to go. In terms of maintenance for the park managers over time, it's a better way to go. But it also does something else that we learned through the public process, which was that people wanted to feel connected to the water. They all understood that Brooklyn Heights already has the promenade, but the most magnificent platform that I can think of in the city for looking at a harbor. They didn't want that. They didn't want another platform. They wanted a place where they really felt the water's edge. And so the design is very much about, you know, if I'm going to put the microphone down, if something has an edge that's shaped like this, and you're standing over here, when you look at the water, the raised piece of the edge actually means that you can't see the water over here. What we've done is that we've relaxed it. You can see that there. We took a seawall and we relaxed it, and that means that when you're standing here, you can actually see down and you can see where the water is on the edge. And that's just one of those things that I think makes being in a park much more enjoyable. Another thing that you can see is that we've cut the ends off of, this is the beginning of being cut off, so that when you get into a kayak, and eventually when we have put the wave attenuators out there, this is a very, very low tide at the end of December. I mean, it's frighteningly low. But the high tide, you can kind of see where the things are starting to grow here. But this will allow you to kayak here and then go by the end of Pier 2 and kayak in 1, and the same thing goes for 3. So that there is in the vicinity of about 10 acres of water that is connected and is something that you can kayak through. So that's the ramp coming down and the water at a higher level. Next. Pier 3, which is pretty far away, is imagined as passive lawns and a very naturalistic landscape. It's a landscape with sumac and drought-tolerant grasses, and then these pockets of lawn going through. Next. That's 3D, of course, today. Next. And the condition